Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Sorry it's been a while since I posted. I was away for a trip for about a week, and when I got back, I just got a little bit behind with filming and editing. So now that I'm back, I would like to do an update video with you. About 2 months ago, I unboxed some Hoyas and I unboxed them with you guys. And I just wanted to give you an update on how they're looking today. I have some good news and some bad news. It's a shame because Hoyas are pretty easy in general to grow and to root, but there's always going to be a little bit of mishap here and there. So I will also be sharing that with you as we go along. So let's start with the cuttings. So I did film myself potting them up and showing you how I would root them. And I'll try to add clips of that here and there as I see fit. So the first cutting that we're going to take a look at is my Hoya Bella Anneke Bois, which is the outer variegated Hoya Bella. I received 2 cuttings to root. It came unrooted, and let me show you how that one's doing. So this is the Hoya Bella outer variegated. The internodes are pretty short, so it may be a little bit difficult to put this into something to root, and I don't want to take off the lower leaves. So what I might do for these is maybe find something flat that I can place like that and root them horizontally like that. They should still be able to root from these little nodes here. I might use sphagnum moss to do that. So I'll do it with these 2 cuttings. I was maybe hoping I could just stick them like this. I can't find any tray to use immediately, so I'm going to get creative. Let me see if I put the moss at the bottom, what that looks like. This might look a little bit awkward, but I wonder if that might be okay. I will try not to keep it too moist, but just enough to provide enough humidity for the roots to start growing, because they should start growing from any of those nodes there. If I lose the leaves, I guess I lose the leaves. One way or another, I probably would have to cut them off, but this is a way to sort of get around that. If I can find something better later, I might transfer this into something else, but I think this might work for now. So to show you what she looks like today, she's now rooted in that sphagnum moss. Pretty well rooted, both cuttings. And in fact, started growing some new leaves. I don't know how well you can make the distinction between the 2 cuttings, but those are the 2. And I think I saw there was a peduncle. I think it's on the tip of that one. So I'd say this one rooted pretty well. Usually sphagnum moss is not my favorite choice when it comes to rooting Hoyas. I don't know why exactly. Oh, there's another peduncle down there. Yeah, I think I just had one that rooted in sphagnum moss and it just grew really slowly for me in the past. But this one has been doing pretty well. Oh my goodness, even look underneath. So I'm quite impressed with its growth. I do want to eventually take it out of this and put it in soil. I just prefer soil when it comes to Hoyas. But yeah, this one is doing pretty well. As for the other cuttings, I did them a little differently. And you're going to see here. I'm going to start with this one just because it can go the deepest into the pot. So I'm actually just using a regular cup. Okay, so this is the perfect depth that I want right now. Let me see what else might be able to go in with it. I'm curious if I can situate this just well enough in here. And honestly, I wonder if all of these can go in here. So I'm gonna do, so I just have perlite and charcoal in here. Mostly perlite, you don't really need much charcoal. I just like to have it. And then I have vermiculite. So I really like it because it helps like pull moisture up, similar to sphagnum moss. It also keeps good airflow. I really like using vermiculite to root plants. So I'm just gonna do a little bit of a mix in here. I also really like how light the vermiculite is. Let's see how this looks in here at this point. Oh, and she's staying pretty well upright. Perfect. Okay. That's looking good so far. And I think I can just stick these in here. I want to get some of these roots inside. It does have a little bit of roots sticking out. There are some roots, some are dried, but some are still good. And I want to make sure I get them inside or underneath the vermiculite here. I'm just gonna push it down and then stick some of these roots in and cover them. I will also do the same thing with this. It does have a little bit of roots. Okay, I think that's good. Can I fit this as well? Yes. Right in here. The leaves keep sticking out of the pot, so maybe I just have to pot it a little higher. Otherwise, everyone is looking good in here. So let me just finish filling this up. So there we are. Yeah, I potted them all together. So this is what it looks like now, and you'll see that there's a bit of new growth on some of these. The Wilbur Graves has a new tendril. I believe the Bella grew some new leaves there. It's gonna be hard to see the fitchii. It doesn't have any new growth necessarily, but it is rooted. And the, oh my goodness, I don't know how to pronounce it, nummularioides or something like that. That one also rooted pretty well in there. And I believe I see like a new leaf forming right there. It's kind of small. But yeah, they're doing pretty well and they're quite well rooted. I don't know how well you'll be able to see, but yeah, I still have it in the vermiculite and perlite. Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. They're lightly rooted. I still think I want to take them out and put them in soil now that they all have a bit of a start so that I can monitor them a bit better. And I'm wondering if at this point it might be good to put my two Bellas together in the same pot. So I might do all of this repotting at the end. We shall see. So those are all of the cuttings that I received, and they were the only ones that I really potted up myself. I left the other ones as is because I didn't want to mess with them too much since I'm a bit unfamiliar with these Hoyas. A lot of them are new to me, so I just kept them in the medium that they were given to me in. So the next one was the KSB-01, and it's doing well. You'll notice that the sun stress is no longer apparent on this leaf. I think my cabinet is just not bright enough for that, but it is still healthy. It's doing fine. And I started noticing like a tendril starting to form, which is a good sign. But yeah, it is just in perlite. I'd say it is rooted pretty well in here. When I got it, it was a fresh cut from what I remember. And I'm mostly seeing the roots at the bottom there, but I think it's at a good place where I can put it into some soil so it can actually get better nutrients than what it's getting right now in just perlite, and all of this algae is just forming around it. But I still think this is just beautiful. I can't really even tell which one I prefer, if I like it more sun stressed or if I like it more green like this. But it does seem to really require or enjoy a lot of light. But yeah, so far really happy with this. And I did get little wet sticks of this plant as well. One of them completely rotted. This one seems to be fine, but it hasn't done anything yet. I think I might just leave it in the perlite for now. I've never actually grown Hoyas like this before, so if the seller said that this is how she normally does it, I'm kind of okay to just try it out and see how it goes, you know? And if I need to do something different, maybe I can try it at some point. But for now, this has been working, I think. So we'll see. But I do have these two and they're doing all right. Next is the Hoya carrii. This one I got as a single leaf cutting. This was the single leaf that I received, and it started putting on new leaves recently. When I went on that trip and came back, I was so shocked to see the new leaves in here. They're just so cute. I just don't like that it's still in this like very green mix, and yeah, this one's just become top priority for me to take out of here, because especially when the roots start to just grow and get really packed in a glass container, it makes it really hard to get out. And this is perlite that it's in. I would like to keep as many roots as possible. So I'm going to try and unpot this on the sooner side and get it into a proper mix. And something where, you know, it's a little bit nicer to look at, because this looks a little bit gross for me at this point. So, but it's been doing well. I'm kind of surprised that it put on so many leaves in such a short period of time. So yeah, we'll see how it goes a few months from now. Another Hoya that I unboxed that day was the Hoya rintzii Borneo. So there hasn't been much change since I unboxed it, but it still looks great. And I still think this plant is beautiful. I haven't been giving it the brightest of light, so a lot of that purpley color is kind of gone, but it's, you know, faintly there. But yeah, not much change. I do think it could be a mix of, you know, the look of the sphagnum moss. I don't know if the algae has any effect on the growth. I also noticed that I have been seeing like new growth points starting. There's one here, very small nub. And I've also noticed one down here. I don't know how well I'll be able to see. It's not this cut point, but there's like just below it, there's a little something. So I'm hopeful that I will have new tendrils growing on this plant soon. But yeah, I do want to repot this. I don't like the way it looks right now in this cup. I know that the intention of this was not to keep it in this forever. I just wanted to make sure I didn't affect the plant too much after transportation and moving it around and stuff like that, because I don't know the environment she was growing it in, and I wanted it to adapt to mine first. And now that I'm seeing some new growth starting up, I think it's an okay time to switch the potting mix a little bit. Okay, so that was mostly good news so far for the Hoyas that I unboxed. The last Hoya that I would like to share with you is the Hoya undulata red. This one was a plant that was on my wish list, and it has been for a very long time, and I've searched far and wide to get one where I wouldn't be breaking the bank or importing from Indonesia or anything like that. I found one. It was the main reason for this Hoya haul, so to speak. And well, this is what my Hoya undulata red looks like today. So a couple of days ago, I noticed that the leaves on this plant were looking a little bit floppy. On closer inspection, I noticed that they were barely hanging on. And I don't know how I completely missed that, but they were not looking super hot, not as red and vibrant, and they just looked floppy. But yeah, these are the leaves. The 4 leaves that it came with, and they just dropped. So I did speak with the seller. I don't believe this is her fault. This is just a finicky plant. I knew that when I purchased it. I always try to do my research on plants before I buy them, because you know, I don't want surprises, but because I know how much I really liked this plant, I kind of wanted to try it anyways and see if I really could grow one. How difficult were they? Like, you hear people talk about how difficult they are, but you'll never know until you try it yourself. I find like there are a lot of plants that I grow that people consider difficult, and I'm having a very easy time with them. So yeah, that's all that I have. I did speak with her though. She did walk me through how I might be able to revive this plant. So most of what I've done here was by her suggestion. I cut off a lot of the base, which rotted, and that was the main reason why the leaves weren't looking good. All of the roots rotted in the pond, and the stem going up where those roots were also rotted. So I had to cut just above that rotten point, and I do have just a tiny bit of stem below this moss. She did suggest that I could also cut part of this tendril, which I think I might do now that I'm starting to see it shrivel a bit more. But she said she had success in the past with rooting Hoyas like this and having them bounce back like this, similar to the KSB-01 that I have here like this. The success rate may not be super high, but there is a possibility, and I refuse to let this plant beat me. I already knew that would be a challenge, and I am ready for that challenge. So if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I might just reach out to her again and ask for another cutting. But this is what my Hoya undulata red is looking like right now. So yeah, that was the quick update on the Hoyas that I got back in February. If you would like to stick around for the repot for some of them, feel free to stick around, because that is what I think I'll be doing now. Okay, I just got my supplies. I mix up a bit of soil here, and I grabbed a mix of different pots, whether I'll be using a 2-inch pot there or using one of these little cups will be dependent on which Hoya I'm looking at. And I may not use everything. We shall see. So the Hoya that I think I want to start with is, let's do this carrii. I just hate looking at this very green mix. I just don't know the best way to take it out. Let me see if I can wiggle out some of this perlite, because this is like a jar, it's glass. So I don't know how easily I can get this out without damaging roots. In fact, I'm wondering if I should tilt the camera a little bit lower so you can see a bit more of what I'm doing. I feel like I keep forgetting to do that. One moment. Okay, that's a lot better. All right, back to knocking out this perlite. Nice. So most of it's still pretty, I guess, clean on the inside, but I just like something better than perlite when it comes to plants with roots on them. I don't think the perlite helps with the nutrition as much, or nutrients, so to speak. Awesome. Okay, so there's a longer stem in here than I thought. I was initially thinking of using a 2-inch pot, but I think it's far deeper than that. So if I were to use this size, I just have to be careful with watering. But Hoya roots grow pretty quickly. I might just reuse some of this perlite anyways. And I find that this is pretty thirsty when I have it in here. So I think it's fine. Just gonna put the perlite at the bottom here. And scoop my soil in. So again, I just have some potting mix, fir bark, perlite, vermiculite, and worm castings in here. The potting mix is primarily peat moss, I believe. Peat moss, cocoa coir. I think it also has perlite in it. And then I just add the other stuff with it to help with the aeration and such and nutrients. And that is done. Already looks much cuter. Just gonna move this to the side here. Okay. Next plant. I'm gonna start with these cuttings. Let me see what the root systems look like on each one. Interesting. Okay, so I have pretty good roots on this one. You can't see them super clearly, but there are definitely roots. I'm gonna put this one. I wonder if it will do well in that size. And then, oops, I accidentally broke the roots on this, but there are other roots. So these two are the nummularioides, something like that. So yeah, I think I might pot them up together in the 2-inch pot. And you can see like that little leaf that I was talking about before, this one. All right, let me just do that real quick. Put some of my vermiculite and perlite mix in there and then scoop up some soil. There, I think that looks pretty cute now. So it will take some time to grow, but at least I can properly see this. And I think I might just give all of these labels now that they have their own pots, which will be nice. Since this one is by itself, might be a good time to pot this up with the Anneke Bois. I think this is the Lita Bois. Let's see, let me take this sphagnum moss out. Oh wow, this is very, very well rooted. See, this is the part that I dislike with the sphagnum moss as well. The roots look so much like it. I don't want to tear any, but they don't just fall off like the perlite does. So I just have to be very careful. Give me a few to get this sphagnum moss off. This might take me a while. Okay, so that ended up taking me quite a while and I lost quite a bit of roots, but I still have majority of the roots on here and I do have a pretty good root system. And yeah, as my initial plan was, I want to pot these together. Now they all have a little bit of roots. I'm gonna reuse this cup, I guess, for this. And yeah, I'm gonna just start with reusing a little bit of that perlite and vermiculite that I have here. And sticking these in. Let's see. I think around there would be nice. I'm really glad that the sphagnum moss worked out to root these. I wish I took it out sooner because it was a little bit difficult to, detach from the roots, especially when there are two plants in here. But ultimately, it worked out pretty well. I know I was a bit nervous the first time, so I'm glad that worked out. Now let's just see how well they transition to soil. Borrow a little bit more. Okay, and then top it off with some soil. Awesome. I am happy with that. And I hope they grow well together like this, because I've seen a lot of people grow it like that and I'm inspired. Okay, the last two I have here. One is the fitchii, which I think might just be fine in a 2-inch pot. There we go. There we go. Now in its own little pot. And then lastly is my Hoya Wilbur Graves. Really excited to see that this one started tendriling here. So right here. So hopefully I'll start getting new leaves very soon. So I may just reuse this cup here. I don't really like throwing out my cups. So why not make use of them? Cute. There it is. Okay, back with more soil. So I think the next one that I want to do is the KSB-01. In my head, I don't know. I know I see roots, but I just feel like something's not right with the stem. So I am curious to take a look at this one. So let's see. Again, the perlite looks pretty good partway down, so maybe not as bad as I thought, but again, I don't know. Perlite alone is a little tricky for me to like water since it doesn't really hold water the same as vermiculite or soils. Oh, well, that's a shame. I knew I was a little bit suspicious. There are roots, just not much. A lot of them that I was seeing at the bottom were actually rotted. Again, part of my issue with a semi-hydro or pure perlite, I just can't figure out the watering very well. Regardless, I still have some healthy roots. The little spindly ones are not the healthy bits, but I can still see some very tiny chunks of healthy roots. So I'm going to be hopeful. I'm gonna use, I wonder if I should still use this pot. Let me see how it compares in here. Why do I just feel like this is sufficient? Like this is a little bit taller, but I kind of like this more. All right, I'm gonna add some of this perlite at the bottom. I also just find that her perlite is very like refined. My perlite's a little bit like chunkier. I've never seen it so tiny and refined. Either way, I just find that I do better with rooting Hoya in soils or vermiculite and perlite, not just perlite alone. So I think since it has a bit of roots right now, hold on, actually, before I pot it up, I just want to make absolute sure that the stem is not rotting, because that is what happened to the undulata. I think it's okay. I'm going to stick this like that. The other thing I actually want to do is maybe I'll put this cutting with it instead of keeping them separate. So you can also see that there are a little bit of roots going on that as well. So let me just pot them together. And see how they go. I am just thinking if it's a bit too top heavy. Let me think. Is this just better? This might just be better. I'll just put both of them in here. Yeah, I'm gonna just give this a quick rinse. I just don't like all the green algae growing in here. And I did have a bit of root rot, so I think it's just safer if I just clean it up a little bit. Okay, so I think this looks a lot better. I'm now just going to add some of this perlite back in here. Just mostly at the bottom as kind of a reservoir since there is no drainage on these cups. And now I'll just fit these in. I think that looks good. And I believe it was this side up. So I'm just gonna stick it in just like that. I want all the roots covered. Previously it wasn't in the perlite, so I think that should do a better job. And time to put the soil in now. I actually want to make sure I can still see the stick, so let me fish for it. I think it's right here. Yeah, I just want it just poking out enough so I can monitor it since the last piece I had rotted, or the piece that was potted with it. And I think this is good enough, honestly. There it is. And so hopefully it should grow from there, and it has better nutrients to kind of help it support it grow. I do fertilize my water when I water my plants. Sometimes I don't do it all the time, and sometimes I just find that it's just sometimes just the potting mix or medium that can just help boost plant growth, at least for Hoyas. I find that for myself anyways. So that's the KSB-01. The last one I have here is my Hoya rintzii Borneo. I kind of want to reuse this moss, so I'm just gonna move this here. I don't think I'll reuse this one, so let me unpot it here. And again, I'm probably going to have an issue with removing the moss, so let's see how that goes. Let me unclip this plant. There we go. And let's see if I can, oh, it looks like pumice is at the bottom. And then it's just a lot of moss. I think it's a mix of moss and pumice, actually. Okay, so again, this might take me a long while, so let me save you some of the trouble, or the time, I should say. And I'll hop to when I am done taking off all of this moss. Okay, so I think I got a good amount of the moss off. It may appear like I have a lot of roots, but I don't think a lot of these are very healthy. I think when I had it in this moss, which was very densely packed too, I wonder if a lot of it got overwatered. I may have overwatered this. And not a lot of these roots look so great. Either way, I still have some good healthy roots in here. And yeah, I think I'll just pot it up. So I'm not going to use that pot anymore. I'm going to use maybe this one. My only issue is that this could be very top heavy. I did mention in my last video, like the unboxing video, sorry, that I had been contemplating like maybe making another cutting. I don't know if I want to do that today though. So I'm just going to focus on, let me see if I can just fit it in here to begin with. So this works. If I reuse this, and where's the little clip? Maybe I'll clip it up here. Ooh, maybe with the soil it might balance all right. What if I clip it even like that? Might just be a little bit of a balancing act. So either way, let's try this out. Just gonna take this out like this. I had a little bit of that perlite at the bottom. I'm gonna stick this in here. Oops. It's getting perlite all over this plant. Okay. So it's in. Let me now grab some soil. There. It's stable enough. There are some air pockets, so I may just need to tap some of that in, but this might do for now just to get it started. There we go. I think that should help with those air pockets. But I kind of want to just see this one I wanted to see this one do well before I start chopping it. I hear mixed things about this plant, about how difficult it might be to grow. I haven't had issues with it yet outside of it being a slow starter, but I kind of want to just focus on this plant right now like that. And then when it's time to propagate, then I worry about it then. One thing at a time, you know? I'm just going to top it up now that I've shimmied some of the soil down. Oops. Nice. Okay. So once again, I have it in this clear pot so I can better see the root system and I can monitor it this way. And I do find this one to be pretty thirsty. Maybe not as thirsty as I thought because I definitely overwatered it, but in general, I can manage the water pretty well like this. So I would say this one is also done. Now, the last plant is obviously this Hoya undulata. There's not much more I can do with it. I already took care of it when I noticed the leaves fall this week. Again, I think at most I might just maybe cut this this tendril right here, since it doesn't really have the energy or any roots right now to even, keep this part alive. And you can already start seeing it shrivel up a little bit. There's not much to it. It's not worth keeping. So eventually I might come to that conclusion and just do that. But yeah, I just put it into some sphagnum moss and perlite per the seller's suggestion, because that was how she was able to root a lot of her Hoyas. So let me try it out. If it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. It's really tricky dealing with plants sometimes because they're live things. They may not always work out the way you expect. And I was prepared for that when I got the undulata. I'm just really sad that it didn't want to stay with me. So that is everything I had for this Hoya unboxing update. As you can see, most of them have been doing pretty well over the past 1.5 to 2 months. Of course, the biggest shame has to be the Hoya undulata red. I'm hoping it will bounce back, but I did know that this plant could be a bit finicky, so let's just see how it goes. Let's see how it is a month from now. Hopefully it is still alive and I can show you what it's looking like. So keeping my fingers crossed. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, or if you learned something new, feel free to hit the like button. If you have any questions, suggestions, any comments at all, feel free to even tell me what your favorite Hoya is even. Feel free to add that in the comment section below. And subscribe. My goal is to have something up every Tuesday. So that is all that I have for today. I hope you have a lovely day and I will see you next time. Goodbye.